And good morning, happy Monday. Welcome to the Pinstripe Chronicles. I'm Rob. I'm here with Donald. Uncle Tats is dealing with some power issues, so hopefully he gets that fixed and he can join the show later on. If not, we do have his awards. The Yankees have taken a series against the Athletics. It wasn't always pretty, but the offense did come to life a little bit, thankfully, in game number 3, and for the most part, as you can see in the title, kind of saved by one Jazz Chisholm. That man has been on a mission since returning from the IL. Good morning to everybody here in the chat with us bright and early on this Monday. We know you could be doing some stuff, but you're here with us. So, hey, what better way to enjoy your Monday to talk some Yankee baseball with us? We got is that Dev? Why are the names all messed up here?
What's going on with YouTube? The YouTube thing, man.
YouTube's all screwing with us all. I think that is Dev because it says 4:45. Nobody else is crazy enough to comment that early. Dev, what's up? He's the early bird. Jonathan's in the chat as usual. Stevie B's here. Raziel, FJ. We got Cold Italian Pizza. Impeach Email is in the house. Doran is here. We've got the usual suspects, and as everyone files in, we'll say good morning and what's up to you. So, Donald, real quick, before we get into like the nitty gritty of this whole series, Jazz Chisholm, what more can we say about him?
Well, I'll give you a little bit of a help here. How about a 328 batting average with 6 home runs, 4 doubles, a triple, 4 stolen bases, and a 980 OPS since returning from injury on June 3rd. I think that pretty much says it all. He has 133 weighted runs created plus since coming over to the Yankees. He's been good. He's been very, very good, especially since coming back from injury. He was really bad prior to injury. He was in a slump. Comes back and he's just been on fire. He saved the offense because the offense has been pretty dead all of June, bar a couple moments from Aaron Judge and Ben Rice, and Dominguez has really been kind of dead. But Jazz Chisholm continues to show up consistently, and he's been great. Now we reopen the conversation, like maybe we should try and nip it in the bud and move him back to second base and then get him a new contract.
They need to move him back to second base, contract or not. Game 2 was pretty evident of that. The fact that the man they switched Jazz to third to accommodate is playing like utter garbage again. I think it's long overdue they make the switch back, go back to the way it was prior to the injury, and go out and try to get a third baseman, because defensively, Jazz has actually been really bad at third base. Like
really bad.
Analytically, he's negative DRS, he's negative outs above average, where last year he was actually pretty good. So it's gotten worse, and you look at him at second base, and he's been fantastic. So I still don't get it to this day. We've been talking about this almost ad nauseum since he came back, why they would make a switch when it just didn't feel necessary, and you're seeing it.
Dude, my point to you is I think that's when things started to spiral. That was the exact point that things started to go completely off the rails.
Yep.
It was a move that didn't make any sense. DJ's struggling at second base. His range is really bad, and then Jazz has struggled at third. Apart from yesterday, he was great yesterday, but by and large, he's really struggled at third this year. And that's when things started to go off the rails, because that's when the Yankees changed what their whole organizational plan was for this season. Run prevention. Focus on run prevention, have a really solid infield defensively, and then that'll cover for some of the lack of offense that there's going to be with Soto gone. Instead, they just went, and then they just, fuck it. And then it started to completely spiral after that.
Yeah, you're right. I remember saying this not too long ago. I was like, it just felt too convenient that once Jazz came back, even though his bat was there, the defense took a turn, and the Yankees started to lose some games, and they started to look sloppy while doing it. The same thing the Dodgers pointed out last year. And we're seeing that again rear its ugly head. And I'm just thinking, why would Aaron Boone make that decision to switch him to third base when DJ can still play third. Peraza can play third, so their bat's not going to really be there. So what's the difference if they're playing second or third base? I never understood it because it was working. You had Jazz and Volpe playing very good up the middle. You had Goldschmidt playing an excellent first base. He was scooping up everything. Now, if you look at it, everything's kind of a struggle. Jazz's throws are everywhere. Volpe's defense has taken a complete 180 from where it was the start of the season. And DJ's not a good second baseman anymore. So it's just like you have three negative infielders throwing it to a 37-year-old first baseman. And yeah, bad things are going to happen. So I never understood it. I didn't like the decision when it was first reported that they were thinking about it. I know Jazz doesn't want to do it, but he's okay with it because he's a team player. But
exactly.
it's just
what happened to Rafael Devers when he was like, I don't think moving me at this stage of the season is the right thing to do for me and for you. He got traded for it. So Jazz is just trying to be a good team player. He's just like, yeah, whatever it takes, wherever you need me, I'll play, and I'm gonna try and win. That's the right attitude, but it's actually negatively impacted him because if you look at his defensive metrics at third base, really, really bad until yesterday. Yesterday was the best he's played at third since coming over. But I mean, it was just so strange because all off-season, all spring, it was second base for him. Second base for him, second base for him. That was the absolute thing. And then they just blew it midway through the season. Ridiculous.
Yeah, it never made sense. Like, the plan for run prevention made sense because you're not going to replace – we're not going to go through this again, but you're not going to replace Juan Soto. So how do you – game plan for not having that kind of offense again? Even though the offense statistically was really good up until this month, how can you game plan for losing a 400 on base, 40 home run type of bat? You prevent runs, good pitching, good defense, and they had that. They had the game plan for that. A good second baseman, a good shortstop, multiple good options at third with a healthy Cabrera, Peraza, and even DJ all can play a plus third base and a plus first baseman, with three good outfielders, or two with hopefully Dominguez learning on the fly, and you had it all around good defense. Mm-hmm. And they were just like, let's change it. So now everything's out of whack. Volpe's trying to do way too much out there at shortstop now. Jazz is trying to prove that he can be a third baseman, but it's too much. And you got DJ who's already declining, and Peraza who's better at third, I believe, but he's also not really contributing much at all when he goes on the field. So you just have a complete mess, and I hope that at some point the Yankees can pull the trigger and get a third baseman and move Jazz back to where he needs to be. But we all know Aaron Boone, when he decides to do something, he's pretty stuck in his own way. I can't see him making another switch mid-season after making the switch already earlier this month. So
it'd be a bad look, but they kind of have to.
They do.
They kind of have to, because I think that Volpe would be less erratic with DJ beside him, who's just a cool, calm, collected third baseman. Very good in his own right. He was a very good third baseman. There was never an issue with him playing third base. So I don't really understand the move. If you, as you say, man, what difference is it going to make? He's not going to hit if he plays third or second. So right? Why don't you just have them play in their natural positions? I mean, for me, DJ's been better than expected. I don't think anyone's going to say otherwise. He's been much better than expected, but he's still not hitting to like a 700 OPS or anything like that. So, and that's not even league average 700 OPS. But so you might as well just have them in their natural positions, or what DJ's natural position is second, but he's as good a third baseman as he is a second at this stage. So, might as well make that move. I think it would help Volpe, because I think when you have two erratic arms over there, it makes it all the more scary whenever the ball is headed to them. So it's like I just don't understand the move. It's just, it doesn't make sense, and that was a great move from Boone. Just typical Boone, Mr. Bubbles. In fact, I'm not going to call him Mr. Boone anymore. I'm just going to call him Mr. Bubbles, because I think that's who he is. He's Mr. Bubbles from now on.
Sounds like a bad friend on a kid's show. Mr.
Yes.
Bubbles, like a teddy
Mr. Bubbles.
What's up, Alex from Big Blue in the Bronx? Make sure you sub up. Good to see you in the chat. Let's see what some people in the chat are saying here, because we've got a good 25 people. Good to see everybody once again with us in the chat. So when you guys get a chance, talk about the fact that MLB said if Tampa is in the playoffs, they will not let them play in Yank Steinbrenner Field. I don't think they would let them use Yankee Stadium.
Where
They'll
would they
probably,
play?
I guess they'd pick a ball, maybe Miami. This way to actually see playoff baseball.
Oh yeah, it'd probably be
Keep them
Miami.
close.
Yeah,
That might be the best course of action. I mean, I don't know why they wouldn't play at. It's still a major league stadium. I know it's used for. It's still got the same dimensions as Yankee Stadium. Maybe because they want bigger crowds. I'm not really sure what they would do there. Let's see what we got here from Doran. This offseason, the Yankees will likely make a small pivot and aim to trade for contact hitters to augment the power hitters.
what contact? What power hitters? We've got like two.
Yeah, they've got Judge.
Yeah, they got Judge. I was gonna say Stanton, but Stanton's not hit for any power yet.
Yeah, he hasn't hit a homer yet.
Which power are you referring to, Duron?
Maybe Rice?
Yeah, move in Rice, maybe.
What's up, Ken?
Now
Good to
that's a
see you.
good talking point. Now this is something that I do agree with that Mr. Bubbles has done. Looks like he's starting to slowly push towards Ben Rice catching more, and maybe that'll be less Austin Wells. I've said this before. I think that Ben Rice, of all the young prospects that we're using, I still think Dominguez needs to be playing every day, like flat out, absolutely. But of all the prospects that we've seen that are playing regularly, Ben Rice has undoubtedly shown the most. I don't think there's any argument there. He's by far and away shown the most. He needs to be playing every day. They need to find at bats for him every day. I don't think he's a first baseman. I like him at catcher. He's done a nice job at catcher. If you saw him yesterday, he was excellent blocking balls, and he was doing a very, very solid job, and he kept Stroman in it through 5 innings. I think we should be pushing towards Ben Rice as the catcher, say 3 days out of 5, 4 days out of 5, and make Austin Wells more of a platoon catcher at this stage. If you look at Austin Wells' metrics, he only hits like his numbers aren't good for against righties and lefties. It's only just the one. So I think you push towards Ben Rice being the everyday catcher. In my opinion, I want his bat in every day, and I don't want a situation where Stanton has to sit a lot in order to get Ben Rice at bats and all that kind of stuff. I want Stanton playing every day. The only other alternative to get Ben Rice every day at bats is to either platoon with Goldschmidt, but I think Goldschmidt is important at first base, considering the infield implications we've talked about. So how about Ben Rice being the catcher every day? I think it's a smart move.
I think they definitely have to consider it because if he caught 2 games this series, that was game 1 and game 3.
Mm-hmm.
And those are conveniently the best pitch games from our starters. So I think you got to consider it. His bat has been too good. Either you give him some at-bats at first, you can DH him here and there to give Stanton a day off here and there because he's not going to play every day. And yeah, Austin Wells has been a complete disappointment. There's no other way of putting it. He's not hitting. His defense has been fine, but he's not hitting. I mean, you can argue that both Escara and Rice have been better defensively than Wells.
Undoubtedly. Austin Wells is batting with 214 batting average, and he already has 64 strikeouts. He only struck out 87 times all of last year, bro. So he's on course to double that.
Yeah, it's been rough, just like the landscapers being right outside my
I was
window.
wondering why there was silence.
Yeah, I was like, I gotta keep myself muted from time to time so I don't hear that rant coming through the mic. But yeah, Wells, there's no other way of putting it. We expected a lot from him, and we're not getting it. And hopefully he can turn it around soon. But right now, you got to consider with the way Rice is playing, and even with the way Escara is playing, that Wells may have lost playing time because of it.
I think he has to. I think that. I think we have to be fair about it. Wells has been a disappointment, and I mean, I was rooting for Wells. I mean, I predicted that Austin Wells was going to be an all-star due to, there's not that much competition at catcher in the American League. So I thought Austin Wells would put it all together this year. But it's not even close. He just hasn't. He just hasn't. His numbers are been very, very poor. 699 OPS, a 93 OPS plus. So that's 7 points below average as an OPS plus. OPS below average is 699. On base percentage 275, and that's horrible. If you're only on base 27% of the time, that is like very bad. So he's kind of skated by because he's like a fun guy, a fun personality, and obviously a good kid. But I only care about results, and his results haven't been there. So I think that we need to. I think we need to try another alternative, and Ben Rice has shown up, and shout out to him, man. I think he's been great. Now, against lefties, Austin Wells has been good. He's got an 852 OPS against lefties. Against righties, he can't hit righties. He only has a 617 OPS, so that's massively below average. Against righties, he has 44 strikeouts against righties, only 20 against lefties. His numbers are there against lefties, not against righties. I think maybe against righties he can't play. You maybe platoon him with Ben Rice against righties.
It seems to be the Yankees have a lot of guys with splits like that because before Rice couldn't hit lefties. He's been much better this year against lefties, but it's like Goldschmidt. He can't hit right-handed pitching to save his life. But lefties, he's killing them. So that's why a little while ago I was like, maybe when Stanton comes back, you consider a platoon with Goldschmidt and Rice. But now you got to think about that with Wells and Rice because the way Rice is catching, you know he can do it. You know he can play first in a pinch, and you know he can DH if need be. So it's a good problem to have if you're Aaron Boone because that means every day you've got at least one good bat sitting that you can go to late in the game for a big hit. Because Austin Wells, that there's still talent there. It's not like we're giving up on him after just a rough couple of months. But it's just that we expected better out of him. We're not saying he should have been Cal Raleigh. What he's doing is insane. But we were expecting some more pop, better average, just better overall numbers, and we haven't gotten it. So, yeah, it's been very disappointing. And you don't really hear about it from the fan base. You know, a lot of the fan base is attacking the Volpes and Dominguez's, and Aaron Judge is getting a lot of heat for some odd reason for having a little bit of a rough patch. But Austin Wells, you're right, has kind of skated by, and we like to be fair here. We're not saying give up on him. We're not saying we hate him, but it's been disappointing.
That was one guy that I really liked. I was really hoping for Austin Wells. It's still worked out, but Ben Rice has taken that opportunity, and he looks good at catcher. He does. He looks good at catcher. I didn't know if he'd be good at catcher, but you know we do have a very good catching system. We have a very good coach, and it's he's developing catchers. Oscar has done very well. Just look at Narvaez over in Boston, who's now better than Austin Wells. So that was an L of a trade if I've ever seen one from Brian Cashman. But I like Ben Rice as a catcher. You know, there was, before the season started, there was concerns that he's not really a catcher. He's not very good defensively. But to be honest, that was the same concerns about Austin Wells. And Austin Wells, if there's anything that has been an asset for him, is his defense. So I think it's the same thing here. I think that Ben Rice is going to be absolutely fine defensively. He looked very comfortable back there. Well, Augustine Ramirez is in Florida too. Augustine Ramirez is a monster.
He's killing it.
Yeah, I really don't like that. I mean, I'm glad that we got Jazz. I just wish we didn't trade Augustine Ramirez.
Well, it's kind of what happens when you have a surplus. Going up to Doran's point, the Yankees have a surplus of catchers again because let's not forget, we still have a Scar who's been more than capable as a backup. And with the bat, he's been fine. Defensively, he's been outstanding. He's caught some really good games back there. They have some good catchers in the system. Jesus Rodriguez technically can catch. Rafael Flores. They have some of their top guys like Perez and Arena who can catch lower in the system. Or catchers, top prospects. So they're loaded, and it goes to, you were just saying a few minutes ago about Tanner Swanson. He develops them. Austin Wells was not supposed to be good defensively.
Nope.
he was like Gary Sanchez. A lot of people were saying like this guy's gonna be the next Gary Sanchez. You might have to consider moving him to first base. Well, one thing that Wells has been doing very well in the majors has been defense. His defense. He's great. Calls a great game. He has a good arm. And he's good at blocking, so he's been outstanding. So credit to Tanner Swanson. The Yankees, even though they traded away 3 catchers in the recent years, Higgy, Ramirez, and Narvaez, and they're all succeeding, they still have a surplus. They continue to chug these things out. It's like the way they are with like these random bullpen arms that kind of show up and perform. The Yankees seem to do that with catchers. So I really do like our minor league system. I like our minor league coaching and development. And my issue with it always has been, and you can attest to this since the start of this show, we've all been on the same wavelength. They just don't know what the hell to do with them when they get here. But the process in the minor leagues is great. It's when they get them here seems to be the issue because you're seeing how successful some of these guys have been around the league. Ramirez is kind of like case in point. He's been fantastic. And anyone that watched him in the minor leagues would have told you that. Narvaez, I think he's exceeded expectations because I always saw him as more of like a backup platoon guy. He's completely blown that out of the water. He's been fantastic.
Awful trade. What a bad trade from Cashman. You're right, man. But you're absolutely spot on. That's for me. Tanner Swanson is like the Mike Harkey, Matt Blake of catching coaches. Do you know what I'm saying? Like Harkey and Matt Blake for me are the elite coaches that the Yankees have on the big league roster. Big league system, but Tanner Swanson is that for catchers. It's crazy. He just keeps developing them, man. So shout out to him and a shout out to us because we actually compliment Tanner Swanson. No, a lot of channels don't do that, but if you look at Tanner Swanson has a lot to do with it. He's very, very good coach.
I mean, yeah, you can't say enough about it. I mean, just look at our catchers. Really, since Gary, we've had a lot of really good just overall catching since Gary Sanchez was traded. I mean, look at Trevino. We turned him into from a backup to he's a starter, and he's actually doing really well with Cincinnati this year. So give credit, much deserved credit to Tanner Swanson. Ben Rice, case in point.
Back to the main topic here. What is the offense's real identity? Rob, give me your thoughts.
Oh, Jesus. They're I've been saying this all year. I don't know what the hell they are. Because for the first couple of months, they would have a 10-run game like every 2 days, every 3 days. And then when they hit this slump where everyone just can't hit, it seems like what Doran's saying is just they're trying to be the guy to hit a homer to break them out of it. Where if you look at what Jazz has been doing, he's kind of the center of this whole conversation right now. His level swing has been so good that he's hitting triples, he's hitting doubles, homers when he wants. He's got 13 of them, and he missed a handful of games. So right now it just seems like home run or strikeout, like Doran's saying. That's the identity. But early in the season, they were putting up good at-bats. Their at-bat quality percentage was actually one of the best in the league. That's dropped a little bit, so the quality of at-bat has dipped. They're striking out a lot more, and they were already striking out a lot. They're not getting on base as much. They're not working the counts as much. It's very, very inconsistent. They are consistently inconsistent as an offense.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think a lot of it is the Yankees' approach to their lineup. That's inconsistent partly because the lineup is inconsistent. Because they have a rotation, they have an outfield rotation, right? Which I can't say I've come across too often. They've got 3 catchers, right? Which they rotate. I've never quite come across this before. You know what I'm saying? Like and it leads to inconsistency because no one knows one day to the next when they're playing. The only people you know that are going to play every single day is Aaron Judge, Jazz Chisholm, and Anthony Volpe. Anthony Volpe plays every day. Arguably Austin Wells, but even Austin Wells is now starting to lose his job slowly. But the rest, it's just kind of like a rotation. We'll just figure it out. Figure it out one day to the next. You know, like for instance, Jason Dominguez, he had a 4-hit game. right? The next game was an ideal matchup for him,
He sat.
and they sat him, right? But they played him the next game when statistically, he's not great from that side of the play. It's just like it's like what? How are you supposed to develop Deshaun Dominguez that way, where like he doesn't know one day to the next if he's going to play or not? Imagine having a 4-hit game and the next day you don't play, and that is hilarious. But actually, I did joke on my show on Wednesday. I says, he's probably going to sit the next day. And he did. He absolutely did. So it's partly Mr. Bubbles. I mean, it is the way that the lineup is constructed. It's very weird because you need to find at bats for Grisham, who's having a career year. You need to find at bats for Bellinger, who's an everyday player. You've got Aaron Judge at right field, who's the best right fielder in the game right now. And that leaves Dominguez. How are you going to get Dominguez at bats when you need at bats for Ben Rice and Stanton and you know what? How do they do it? It's not easy, but that's the roster that's constructed. But I think the way this lineup is that it's a good problem to have, but it also means that every day there's going to be someone on the bench that probably should be playing, right? And every day because the way this lineup is constructed, where we have 3 catchers, and we have a below average shortstop, and we don't have a third baseman, we're guaranteed to have someone who's playing every day that doesn't deserve to play every day, and you're guaranteed to have someone sitting every day that should be playing every day. And that's the problem, because we've got strength in one area and a dreadful weakness in another. And it's not even. That's why it's a clunky lineup. That's why it's a clunky roster. And that's why you have uneven results. That's just my opinion. Next thing, strikeouts.
Yeah.
Strikeouts is a massive problem. Like, this team strikes out at an extraordinary rate. And it's beyond belief. You look at Volpe's strikeout numbers. You look at Aaron Judge's strikeout numbers. You look at Jazz Chisholm's strikeout numbers. You look at Dominguez's strikeout numbers. You look at these guys. There's a lot of strikeouts in this lineup, and not a lot of on base. I think that we only have a couple of guys that are like above average on base percentage. It's a lot of strikeouts, and that is an issue. It is. I know the analytics don't care about strikeouts, but in tight games and when you need situational hitting, it is an issue.
Yeah, you're right, because if you look at, I think you got to think about putting a platoon of Bellinger and Grisham just to make sure that Dominguez is playing every day. Because Grisham we saw when he went cold, but now he's been heating up. Bellinger at the same time, he's starting to heat up. His average is up to like 270. He's got like a near 800 OPS now. So if you're Aaron Boone, I can't really be mad at him necessarily for the lineup, because every day he has to find someone to sit. And I don't think he wants to sit Jason Dominguez, but it also kind of does prove Clint Frazier's point that the Yankees do not believe in hot, which is something that we've been saying for 5 years on this show. Yeah, and Doran, you're right. They did the same thing last year when they prioritized Verdugo.
That's a big issue. Spawn, Doran.
You're absolutely right. So I just think that I wish the Yankees knew this game had a pulse, that they knew this game had a life to it, that had a heartbeat, because if they knew that, they would ride the hot hand until the hot hand got cold. So if Dominguez has a 4-hit game, play him. I mean, it's like last week. Anthony Volpe has a 3-hit night, and Aaron Boone's like, scheduled day off. So no matter what, you're not playing. Play him the next day. See how he does. If he keeps hitting, keep playing him. And then when he eventually has a rough game, because he will, then you sit him. That's how you play the pulse of the game. You go by the heartbeat of the game. If Anthony Volpe's, after a completely terrible slump, offensively, defensively, has a 3-hit night where he hits a home run, and then you sit him. And then here's Dominguez, 4 hits. We haven't had a guy with 4 hits. Well, Grisham had 4 hits in the exact same game, but like, that's rare. And then you sit him. It doesn't make sense. So it's like they don't do a good job of reading the pulse of the game, and that's my big issue with it. I understand having to play these guys because Grisham's playing out of his mind this year. You're never going to sit Judge. what they did for one game. And you have to play Bellinger when he's hot, and he's great defensively. And you only have 3 outfield spots. You want to get Stanton at bats because you know when he gets going, he's not going to stop for a little while. So I understand all that, but like sitting a guy after a 3-hit night and then sitting a guy after a 4-hit night, it doesn't make sense. It's never made sense. The Yankees have been doing this for a very long time.
That's right. Durham's right. Athletes are creatures of habit. They have to get into a groove. And I mean, you talk to, pros in the past that have been very successful MLB players in the past. They would all say that it's actually really useful to them if they are in a consistent spot in the lineup that they can get used to, and then they've got they have a pretty much a solid spot in the lineup. But the analytics don't believe in that. They don't agree with that. They just treat you as a binary number. They don't treat you as like a human and I think that's an issue. You speak to A-Rod and try and tell him that hot and cold doesn't exist. I mean, it's absurd. Of course, there's going to be times where you're on fire, and sometimes that you're not, because it is a game of failure. But in that game of failure, you are going to be going through a period where you cannot miss, and that's just. And it's also the same in every sport. There's going to be a time where you're red hot, and then there's a time where you're having a slump. Baseball's no different.
Oh, yeah.
So, but the analytics tell you that doesn't exist. And that's why, as much as I agree that analytics is an important part of building your team, and it's a smart way of looking to see, how to put together your roster and how you utilize your roster, all those things are important. But it shouldn't be the be-all and end-all. And I think that's when things sort of started to go a little bit wrong for the Yankees since then. As they started to just be completely focused on that, it's just gone, and they've made some bizarre decisions. And this one's another one, because now this lineup is really a platoon lineup. There's guys that are only hit against lefties. There's guys that only hit against righties. Right? And then you got everyday players that hit against neither. And that's what your issue is. And it is difficult. I can excuse Mr. Bubbles for that, because it is difficult. How are you supposed to put together a lineup where you need to get Grisham, Bellinger, Judge, and Dominguez at bats every day, plus Stanton, plus Ben Rice? It's difficult, but it is his job, and he's paid pretty handsomely to do it. And I expect him to be smarter about it. So the way to do it is ride the hot hand. If Dominguez is a 4-hit game, by hell or high water, he should be playing the next day. I mean, that's just common sense. You know what I'm saying? I think that's how you slightly improve this lineup, but it's still a clunky lineup that gets shown up against better opposition.
Yeah, and it's the same thing in every sport, like you said. Like in basketball, if a usual bench guy starts a game and puts up 30 points, you're not going to want to sit him the next game. Like, you're going to want to start him again. So it's no different in any other sport. I just don't get why you see every other team in baseball, they'll do that. Like, oh, this guy just had a big night. He hit a couple of homers. Or he drove in 4 runs. And the Yankees are like, oh, that's okay. We're going to sit him anyway. It's like, I don't like it. I've never liked it. I just wish the Yankees would finally realize that, because they had this before in previous managers, like where they understood that playing the hot hand made sense. Like, imagine if we had this. I know I don't want to keep bringing up the dynasty, but like, imagine if we had this mentality when Shane Spencer was hitting home runs every day. The Yankees would sit him. Aaron Boone would find a way to bench the guy. He hit a homer like 3 games in a row, and they'd be like, okay, well, that's enough. Let's sit him in favor of like Chili Davis. And I like Chili Davis, but he wasn't hitting like Shane Spencer. So
remember when Glenn Allen Hill got signed and he acquired, and for like 3 weeks he hit a home run every single game, right? But then never hit a home run again after that 3 weeks span. But that 3 week span was generational. If Aaron Boone was manager, you'd see him maybe once a week.
Exactly. It's the truth, and we don't want to act, like the old man yelling at the sky, like back in my day. But that's just how it was. When you had a hot player, you play him. So I just wish they would kind of bring back. That's why I always say, as much as I'm in favor of analytics to a degree, I don't want it to overtake the sport because you still need that old school element, and that's an old school element. It's crazy that we even have to say that playing the hot hand's an old school element. It shouldn't be. It should be the same no matter what era of baseball you're in. If you're hot, you keep playing because baseball is a game of failure. So why add to that? Baseball is the only sport, like Derek Jeter said, where you can fail 7 out of 10 times and still be considered good.
Famer.
Right, you're a Hall of Famer if you fail 7 out of 10 times. And Aaron Boone's like, my guy just went 4 for 5. I'm going to sit him. It doesn't make sense to me. So at the risk of sounding like an old head, but this is what we grew up on. We watched it with our own eyes. Playing the hot hand worked. And the Yankees don't believe in that now, and it's a damn shame.
That's a problem too, because there's no evidence to suggest that their current course of action actually works. What evidence is there to say it works? The Yankees never won a World Series.
Exactly.
They haven't won a World Series since they've completely changed their philosophy. So, what is the evidence that it works?
There is none.
No.
There is no evidence.
There is no evidence to suggest it works. That's why it's so annoying. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. You have to have some kind of you have to treat these people as individuals. And I know, listen to the analytics, absolutely, have it help you, but don't make it completely decide. And it was interesting because Clint Frazier had a lot of points. Now, I don't know if some people are going to ignore it because of the fact he wasn't a successful Yankee, but he had a lot of interesting comments around the Yankees' use of analytics, and don't let someone who maybe was not a successful Yankee distract you. I'm not talking you. I'm just talking the general you to people in the public that are just maybe just going to ignore him, going, "Oh, he's got sour grapes." Don't let that stop you from listening to what he's actually saying. He's someone that's experienced it. He lived it. He tried to make a successful career as a Yankee, despite what the Yankees did to him, and they kind of mistreated him because of the analytics, their use of analytics, their obsession with it.
He was kind of like, he proved his own point, or his point was proven when they called him up. He hit a homer in his first game and they sent him down. So it's like, there's no better person to tell you that than Clint Frazier. I know, like you said, he wasn't successful, but that wasn't all his fault. He had a really good year in 2020. Then he got concussed. I think he might have gotten concussed before that, and that just seemed to derail him. But the Yankees, let's not forget, people might not remember this, but he was actually their top prospect after they traded for him. He was higher rated than Gleyber Torres, and they treated him like a journeyman. They treated him like a 27-year-old guy that we can just send up and down, platoon player or Scranton shuttle type of guy, and they didn't trade him. So this is kind of goes to an overall problem with the organization. So he does have a good point, and his point was proven like 24 hours later when they sat Dominguez after a 4-hit game. And prior to that, when they sat Volpe after he had a 3-hit game. And Clint Frazier's probably just sitting there like, maybe I'm not so much of an idiot after all. Because if you think about it, he had that point. Ben Ruda, who not many people even remember the name, made the point about how the Yankees don't teach the fundamentals in the minor leagues, and you're seeing that play out. So even though they may not have been this huge success at the major league level, or some players didn't even make it to the major league level, they're still there in the organization. So they know what it's like playing for that organization. So maybe we should listen to a player more than we should listen to someone else on X. Like, I wouldn't recommend listening to my opinion about how the Yankees operate. I would tell you, listen to what Clint Frazier has to say because he was there. True.
That holds even more water, holds even more weight. I mean, we can go by like very strong indicators, very strong sources, but you've heard it from the horse's mouth. And Brian Cashman was completely dismissive of Ben Ruda. He just called him sour grapes and just kind of threw a couple of jabs at him. But that's the kind of thing. It's like the Yankees are not introspective. They don't look at themselves and think, right, what can we do better? How can we approach this better? They never do it. As I say, their audit. Remember they did an audit of their analytics, and it was run by Mike Fishman, who's arguably the biggest problem in the organization. Imagine auditing yourself, where you can just say, "I suck at my job. I'm leaving." I mean, you're not going to do that, no, because he's getting paid extraordinarily handsomely.
If you're reviewing
So,
yourself, you recommend you give yourself a raise.
right,
If I got to
and
do
that's
my
what
own
he did.
evaluations.
That's what he did. I'm fantastic. So they did nothing to their analytics audit. So that's why I'm saying the Yankees are not introspective at all. They don't look at themselves and say, right, what can we do better? Because if anyone questions that, just say, well, how has the fundamentals changed or lack thereof since the World Series or since the playoffs?
Has
It's arguably worse.
in this last month, it's been reverting back to 2024,
Right. It's
and
actually even more glaring, though, bro. Like,
it
for
is.
instance, game two, when we ran out the building against the A's, the pop up to Austin Wells from a bunt that was like 6 inches above the freaking home plate. It was just dropping right into his glove. He took a step back in order to try and get a runner out, but fucked it up and got nobody out. And then there was three guys just standing there staring at it like it was a golden orb from outer space. And it reminds me of when Aaron Hicks did that. He just stared at the ball like it was a golden orb from outer space and let the runners be safe on the base. And it's just what they do, and it's ridiculous. And then there was no one that was backing up Jazz Chisholm at third base when Bellinger threw a ball that Jazz should have grabbed, and then it went over his head, and then there was nobody backing up, which is what you get taught in middle school. I mean,
Yep.
dude, I was taught it. Back up, back up. And if I didn't back up, then I'd get benched. That's how it goes. But in Aaron and Mr. Bubbles' world, that's great. No problems here. Don't know what you're talking about. That's your problem. Our defense is great. It's absurd.
Yeah, it is a huge issue, and I'm sure we're going to get into some of that. But I think it's time, because we did have a series. We did have a series win. I think it's time for the awards, Donald. So I'm going to get that intro playing, then Donald's going to take over.
Salute to everybody. If y'all could hit the like button, hit the sub button. We've had nice number of subs over the last couple of days, so let's keep that number up. So if anyone who's watching that hasn't done so, why not join the Pinstripe Chronicle family? Hit that like button, hit that sub button, do all the good stuff. Right, let's get into the awards for the A's series. The MVP for me is Jazz Chisholm, and I don't think there's any debate about it. Rob?
No, it's Jazz Chisholm. Tats had Jazz. Stevie B has Jazz. This should be as easy as it gets for the MVP.
Absolute locked away. What he did, because I know we focus a lot on the things that they need to improve and the negative aspects, but if you want a massive positive over this past 3 days, Jazz Chisholm. Now, he is a little bit petulant, right? And he does need managed, which Mr. Bubbles doesn't do. But when he lets his pure natural ability take over, he is really freaking good, and he is one of the more exciting players in the game. He's got the athleticism, he's got the speed. When he makes contact, it's electric. He is an electric player, and he was electric, and he's also got the defense as well. His arm is phenomenal. He made a bunch of plays at third base, which shocked me because he hadn't done it to that point until yesterday, and he was making these phenomenal plays. So he looked good. Important plays too to save some runs. I think there was a point where Brubaker almost gave up a line drive down the third base line that would have cleared the bases, and it would have been a safe situation had Jazz Chisholm not made an excellent play. So he showed it on his glove, but offensively, he was just electric. Home run, triple, just electric, absolutely electric. So Jazz Chisholm, man, he was He was the reason why the Yankees didn't lose that series. He
Mm-hmm.
ensured the Yankees didn't lose that series. They could have lost it yesterday, and if Jazz didn't have the kind of game that he had, they would have lost yesterday, which really is pretty remarkable. That's how good he was. So it was almost arguably a one-man show until Aaron Judge kind of iced it
Yeah,
afterwards. But before then, it was all Jazz.
for sure. What a fantastic series. Just you can't say enough about it. I know Game 2 nobody hit, but you look at Games 1 and 3. If it wasn't for Jazz Chisholm, we lose to the Athletics. Simple as that.
Crazy. Low-key MVP. Well,
I went with Cody Bellinger. I know it'd be easy to give another one to Judge, but I don't think we've given, or at least I haven't given Bellinger a lot of awards this year. I think he had a really good series. Like I mentioned earlier, he's quietly got that average back to very respectable 270. The OPS is climbing up to 800 again. He's been hot. He had a really good series overall. I think he had a better series just numbers wise than Judge. I know Judge had a better game yesterday, but Bellinger was all over the place. I know that throw in Game 2 wasn't great, but
it was fine. It was just
yeah,
There was not. I mean, a decent third baseman makes that play. I don't know.
right. Which will go into a point later on in this award segment, but yeah, I think Cody Bellinger has been really good as of late, and it's coming at a good time because Spencer Jones is starting to make some noise out there in Scranton. So yeah, Cody Bellinger might be hearing those footsteps.
You're my boy, Spence. I agree, man. My low key is exactly the same as yours. Cody Bellinger, he is the low key MVP. Aaron Judge didn't have a great series until he hit those two
Right
at the end, but he was striking out a lot. Until then, it was Cody Bellinger's show. Cody Bellinger has been good. He's not been like maybe what we would have expected, but he's starting to come around, and his OPS is there. He showed a bit of power. I just like his attitude. He's got a good attitude. I like his everyday approach. He's just a solid dude. And in a team that's very soft, he's one of the guys that isn't soft. He plays every day, plays hard, and he's got a good attitude. And he showed it yesterday. He was great. Really good. Big home run.
Yeah.
Just good at bats. Good defensively. Everything you need, really. He's been solid, man. Like, very, very solid.
For sure. And Tats
also
him
as a leadoff hitter, because we don't have a leadoff hitter, and I want my leadoff hitter to play every day. If there's a candidate to be a leadoff hitter, I would say it's him.
I would agree with that, but we know that the leadoff hitter changes pretty much day to day. Sometimes it's Grisham. There was that one day it was Dominguez. If there's a lefty, it's going to be Goldschmidt. So I would like it. I wouldn't see a problem with it. But we know that Aaron Bubbles doesn't like to keep the same lineup. So, God, if he has, I'll put it this way: Bellinger can lead off in the next game we play, go 5 for 5, and he'll probably be batting third in the next game. So,
the way I would do it if I was not Mr. Bubbles is I would have my first 5 guys consistently in the lineup every day, same spot. Then the bottom part of the order you can mix and match. I don't really care, but the top bit. The setting the table and the run production should be consistently every day. Find your 5 guys that you want to play every day. Have them in the same spot. That'll get the consistency going. If you want to mix and match in the lower half of the order, I really don't give a flying shit. Yeah. But I really think that you need to, because they did actually have that last year.
They did.
They had that last year, and it worked. It worked. You had a consistent lineup. It was Juan Soto, and it was Aaron Judge, and it was Big Frickin' G. It was consistent. You knew where everybody was, and it worked.
Yeah, once Glaber went leadoff, they had the top 4.
That was fantastic.
Figured out, and it worked. You're right.
Great. It worked out great. But that's why I think that Bubbles needs to figure that out. I think find a spot where you want Cody Bellinger hitting every day. Like you could have Cody Bellinger leading off, and you could have Aaron Judge batting second, and then you're guaranteed to have 2 quality at bats, one after another, and then you maybe have Goldschmidt, then you maybe have Big G, and then you have Jazz, something like that, and then you got your consistent lineup every day, and you run it out. I don't really know how they're going to do it, but they need to do it because I don't like the inconsistency. But Bellinger is one of the guys that isn't inconsistent. He's been pretty consistent all year long. Got a good comment here before we go back to the awards. Salute to you. Hey guys, sorry to change topic, but I was watching the Tigers game, and they just seem like so much more of a complete, fundamentally sound team. Preach! Preach, my guy. Preach, my brother. Preach. You are preaching to the converted. You know, that's exactly how I feel.
I mean, he's right.
You're spot on, man. I mean, at the end of the day, I wish that comment could be sent to Bubbles and to see how he'd react to that. Don't think Mr. Bubbles would have anything to say about that other than a lot of bullshit. But anyway, let's get back to the awards. We'll go back to, we've had the done the low key. We'll go with a clutch award. Rob, who is your clutch award winner?
Well, Tats and I have the same answer. I went with Marcus Stroman. His first game back, I had pretty much no expectations. I was thinking he was going to blow it, and he pitched fine. Pitched a really good game. Gave us 5, kept us in it. The offense eventually took over, and we didn't really need much else out of him. He did his job in his first start back. It was his best start of the season because his previous 4 before the injury were awful. So shout out to him because I really thought he was going to come out and get absolutely rocked because he looked bad in his rehab assignment, really bad. But rehab, to his defense a little bit, is where you kind of just work on some things, and it seemed to work yesterday. So hopefully he can give us some consistent outings because without Yarborough, we need it.
I think my clutch award I'm going to give to Jazz. That was a clutch showing. He drove in all our runs to start the game. If it wasn't for him, Yankees lose to the A's. So I'm going with Jazz as the clutch award winner. The next one, pitching award. Rob.
Once again, Tats and I have the same answer. I went with Will Warren. He's had a really good game. He's currently leading the American League in strikeouts per 9, ahead of Garrett Crochet, which is a pretty big thing because Crochet racks up strikeouts like you can eat mini M&Ms. And he's one of the leading rookies in strikeouts still. He's one of the best strikeout pitchers in the American League. Overall, his numbers have been fine. There's been some inconsistencies here and there, but he's done more than we could have asked at him, especially considering what we saw from him last year, which was abysmal. He's been quietly having a really solid year, and it's coming at a really good time because, again, we don't know when Heal's coming back. Yarborough's still on the shelf, and we know we're not going to see Cole until maybe this time next year if we're lucky, or maybe a little bit sooner. Seeing Will Warren having this kind of a bounce back after what was a terrible season last year, both in the minors and in the majors, I got to give him credit. He's been very solid. I won't say great. I won't say this guy's going to get an extension, but he's been quietly having himself a really strong season.
No, I completely agree. Will Warren's my pitching award winner as well. Don't think there's any question about it, really. Stroman was okay, but Stroman has to prove some shit to me before I'm willing to get him into the awards. But Will Warren has been consistently very good of late. And this was another great outing. 10 strikeouts over that outing?
Yeah, I think it was another 10 strikeout game, but he did have 4 walks. So again, there's some things you can nitpick at, but overall he's keeping you in games. Aside from that Dodgers start, he's been great.
See, the thing is about the walks, don't necessarily concern me as much. I'm more worried about walks with relievers than it is starters, because starters, I believe, if they fall behind 2-0 in the count, they don't want to start chasing counts. They'd rather walk someone than throw a meatball down the plate and then give up a double or a home run and all that stuff. So they would rather walk a guy and start afresh. That's kind of what Warren's doing, and that's a good thing because Warren doesn't really have a fastball that's going to overpower you. So if he falls behind in the count, I'd rather him not trying to chase the at-bat and maybe leave a pitch over the middle of the plate. So I think that accounts for some of those walks.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't see a complete starter just yet, but you're seeing the signs of a guy that almost every time he's going out there, especially since the start of the season. Like, it was okay, and then it was bad, and then it was really bad against the Dodgers. But, like, outside of maybe, like, 3 or 4 starts, he's been absolutely fine. And that's your number 5 starter, technically, number 4 starter. So
You take it every day, bro.
exactly.
10 Ks from your 4th or 5th starter, you take that every single day.
Absolutely.
Really, really good. Next one. You're my boy, Blue. You're my boy, Blue. Shout out to Will Farrell. You are my boy, Blue. Now, my boy, Blue, let's see. It's actually one of it, Spencer Jones. My big boy, Blue, is coming through. And watch out because he's taking names. He's absolutely mashed in Double-A. Mashed in Double-A. And now he's in Triple-A, and I believe he has 2 home runs in like 3 games already. Triple-A, he is mashing again. Spencer Jones is here, and I hope they find a role for him. I don't know. I don't trust Aaron Boone. I don't trust what they're going to do. I don't trust Bubbles and what his plan is for Spencer Jones. You'll probably have him as like a fuck knows, bro. He'll probably turn him into a bullpen catcher or something. Bullpen catcher and a pinch hitter. But he is really good, and if we had a good manager, he would be really good. So he is my boy, Blue. Another of my boy, Blue, is Ben Rice. The fact that Ben Rice is taking his opportunities, and it was a big test for him. Now, offensively, didn't have the greatest game yesterday, but what he did behind the plate was very, very noticeable. Blocked a lot of pitches, man. Blocked a lot of balls at a very high level. Very high level, kept everything in front of him. It's very important. So all that stuff that he can't play defense at his position, well, he kind of proved that wrong. I thought that he handled the pitching staff very well. So he is my boy, Blue, along with Jones. Rob.
You and I and Tats were all in agreement. It's Ben Rice. Ben Rice is really proving himself behind the plate, and as Tats puts it here, he's making a case for himself to overthrow Wells, and that's what we were talking about earlier. You can't argue that. He is making a case to become the everyday catcher.
I think he is. I think he should too. And that would maybe make someone available that you wouldn't necessarily think, but maybe that would help us acquire a third baseman. But anyway, the next one, Aaron Boone.
Bubbles.
Bubbles himself. I'm sorry. Bubbles. Bubbles. Game 2 was an absolute atrocity. Shout out to Pete NYYU. At one point, he just said, just pull them all off the field. I mean, it was just absurd. No one was backing up third base, so there's no fundamentals. You have balls dropping at the home plate, and you're just allowing people just to get on base. No one gave a shit. And then even Aaron Judge made the last out at third base because he just gave up. So you can't tell me that there isn't a mentality issue in this team. Now, when things are good, the Yankees are the ultimate like front runners. When things are good, they look unbeatable. Like yesterday, they started to get a couple of hits, put up 12 runs. They look great, right? But when things are going bad, they just go, I can't be bothered. I'll see you tomorrow. That's their attitude, and that is their attitude. And I can't imagine anyone would disagree because there's now ample evidence to suggest that. Just look at that Boston series. Look at the Baltimore series. Look at, we saw losing to the Rockies. We lost now to the A's embarrassingly. There are games that we've just lost that have been so embarrassing. And a lot of it is just because midway through, they're not really hitting. And they just go, can't really be bothered today. I'll see you tomorrow.
Yep.
And that is the attitude that Bubbles cultivates. And that is why he gets another 0. Even though it wasn't the worst managed series, but that attitude I despise and I will never support. 0. Rob.
Yeah, Tats went with a 3. I think that's being a little generous. I think we're all kind of in agreement. We just don't want to give him good ratings, even if they win a series. I'm giving him 1 bubble out of 10.
1 bubble out of 10.
We did win the series, but just game 2 was such a embarrassing performance that it's hard to be like, well, at least you won the series. When you have that in the middle of two very nice wins, one was a really well pitched game and you scored enough, and then game three you just beat the crap out of them until Brubaker made it interesting. Just you can't have that, and you can't tell us that there isn't something with this team that reflects from what they're being managed with or managed by, and this is going to be a real test, as we're seeing in the comments. I don't know who that is, Bomb Baby. I'm sorry if you're in our chat normally. The names are all messed up on YouTube, so I don't know who's who. Unless so, but he's saying the next two series will show us a lot about this team, and I agree, absolutely agree.
You're spot on. Yeah, that's my rating on Boone. Let's get to the L. I was debating who to give the L to. I thought Volpe had a horrible series by and large, but my L goes to Brubaker. He made a blowout very interesting, and you have to wonder if Bubbles, if he didn't take him out, what would actually have happened. Salute to you, Mark, Seamaker. If Boone didn't take out Brubaker with the bases loaded and one out and already a couple runs scored, you wonder what would have happened if he kept Brubaker out there. That's how bad Brubaker was. Like, Brubaker was really, really bad. It's really impressive to walk into a complete blowout where the A's are ready to go home and the Yankees are feeling great, and then he almost made it a safe situation on a 10-run lead. So that really says everything. He gets the L. Brubaker was fucking horrible.
He was really bad. And that does go to an earlier point, because Dorn just brought it up about Beater. Maybe at some point, because Brubaker's out of options. So Tats, I'll go with Tats. You didn't have to give it to Volpe because Tats did. He said you can't get ejected while trying to get yourself right. And that's a really good point. Anthony Volpe, aside from drawing walks and having one hit and stealing a base, he didn't have a good series. But my L goes to Brubaker as well. You can't keep doing this to us, Yankees. It's 10-1, and you're making this interesting. Not even a 10-run game is easy nowadays. Like, everything's got to be a headache. Luckily, it didn't end up being that bad, so shout out to guys like Loizaga and Hill, Hamilton, Weaver to get through that without any further damage. But I don't know, man. JT Brubaker, he's got to be good. He has to be good because his job could be on the line, and that's going to go to another award in just a second from Tats. But, yeah, he was terrible. He made a game interesting that didn't need to be interesting.
Yeah, no, he's definitely the L. It's a great point, though, by Tats. All right, let's get to the next one, the final one, the Aaron Hicks Award. There is that dickhead. Right. The worst of the worst, Aaron Hicks. The award for Aaron Hicks. Rob, who is your Aaron Hicks Award winner?
I went with just the Game 2 performance. That was worthy of Aaron Hicks. Just, it was awful. Embarrassing. They didn't look like they cared. That throw from Bellinger, although it wasn't the worst throw, it wasn't the best throw. Jazz, it goes well past him. It just brought back all the memories of what the Dodgers said about us. And that's what I tweeted. I said, they told the world what the Yankees' issues were, and we're seeing it again in June of 2025. And that was such an embarrassing game to lose that bad to the Athletics. You should be kicking the crap out of them all 3 games in a row. I know they got some exciting young players, and I think they're going to be pretty good in a couple of years, but you're getting blanked by JP Sears, who had like a 5 ERA.
Whoa.
You're getting just beat up left and right. Schmidt wasn't terrible, but he gave up a couple of homers, but it didn't matter because we didn't score. And not on top of that, the defense was about as sloppy as you can possibly imagine. It looked like a group of people that have never played baseball before. And that's embarrassing when you have veterans on this team that should not be allowing that kind of stuff. And a manager that should not be accepting that kind of stuff. And he gave zero answer. He was just kind of like, yeah, we just didn't look that good. It's like it's to a point where you're expecting it once a series, and that's never a thing you want to see from a team that you expect to go and compete for a championship.
No, you're right. That's it. The thing is, I know it's an isolated individual game in June, but it's not isolated because it's been going on for years. But I always say the same thing. Win or lose, practice good habits. And then the good habits will help you when you win, and then it'll carry you forward and propel you forward through slumps or through good times. Just practice the good habits. The Yankees don't practice the good habits, hence why I'm pissed off. It really isn't difficult. Practice the good habits. I don't care if you're down 7-0. Back up third base. Practice the good habits so that when it's a close game in the playoffs, you know what to do. But the Yankees don't do it. They're very, very cool with it. They don't really give a flying shit what happens in June. That's very obvious. I mean, dude, you just saw Aaron Judge's answer. He doesn't really care. He's just sort of like, hey, we're first place. What do you want? So it's like they don't really necessarily care about the day to day. And it's very, very obvious when they really need to start practicing good habits. I know people will be sick of fundamentals, the word fundamentals, but how about just the term good habits? You know, play hard every single day. You cannot make the argument that the Yankees play hard every single day. They really don't. Play hard every single day. Run out every ground ball. Try and make every play. Back up the base. Just very simple stuff. Have a good attitude. Don't get yourself thrown out all the time on the base pass. And just practice good habits and it will help you. It will help your culture. It's just very simple stuff. Heck, just make me the manager because honestly, it's embarrassing. So yeah, I was deciding like who's my Aaron Hicks, and it was in between Austin Wells and Aaron Boone. So I'm just going to go with both. I can't really choose between the two. Aaron Boone because he is cultivating this Mr. Bubbles approach. It's far too soft. I'm not asking him to be Billy Martin. I'm not asking him to be Lou Piniella. I'm not asking him to beat people up or anything like that. I'm not asking for him to fight anybody. I'm just asking him to hold people accountable. But you don't need to hold people accountable by being physical or being abusive. That's what people miss in the modern day. They think everything has to be black and white. Oh, what do you want him to be, Billy Martin? No, I'm not asking him to be Billy Martin. But there's a way in which you can hold people accountable. Like, and Tats had a great example. Terry Francona, when Ellie De La Cruz, who was their best player by far, and he would walk into this Yankee team, Ellie De La Cruz. In fact, he'd probably be, undoubtedly be this Yankees' second best player after Aaron Judge. He's that freaking good. I love Ellie De La Cruz. He forgot how many outs there were in that Reds game. Remember that? Terry Francona called him out publicly afterwards and says, you need to have the right mentality in order to be the best. He said that publicly, made a very public point to Ellie De La Cruz. Now, Terry Francona is a Hall of Fame manager, so you can't criticize a Hall of Fame manager. You obviously spot on. You got it right, right? So for those softies that say that they're Yankee fans and defend Aaron Boone all the time, how about that? Because you can hold people accountable. Hold people accountable, preach good habits, and then good habits will show up on the field. Trust me, because I've been seeing it for years. Not just not just as Yankee managers, we've seen it before with Joe Torre, Joe Jordan, and all that stuff, but you've also seen it around the league. Preach good fundamentals, preach good habits, good things happen. It's as simple as that. So he is my Aaron Hicks as well as Austin Wells, simply for managing to lose the catching job to someone who they'd consider was just a DH, Ben Rice. Now they're sort of thinking, you know what, maybe Ben Rice might need to be the catcher because Austin Wells has been so bad. He's got a 699 OPS. That is absurd. That is not workable. And you just saw what he did by letting a ball just bounce in front of him.
Yep.
And looked like he didn't care. That sucks. So both of them get the Austin Wells Award, the Aaron Hicks Award.
I mean, we've had several potential name changes. Pablo Reyes. I don't think Austin Wells will be getting an award named after him anytime soon. But yeah, Tats had Brubaker, for like I mentioned earlier. He said just his job's on the line and he performed that way. That's pretty damn bad. And he gave the Aaron Hicks Award to JT Brubaker.
Yeah. What do you think about the fact that we've now had two guys getting ejected in Jazz and Volpe now arguing balls and strikes? Shouldn't there be a better locker room discipline in order to stop that? Because how does that actually help you?
I mean, look at what Aaron Boone does. I mean, they're kind of follow the leader.
Yeah, follow the
he's
leader.
he's poster child for getting thrown out for arguing balls and strikes. I would rather him get thrown out than the players.
Right.
That's what he was best at doing. He'd be like, "Let me handle it," and then he gets thrown out. And I think he's okay with that. It's like as long as my guy does. Yeah, I don't want to see the guys get thrown out, but I understand. Like this year, all across baseball, the umpires have been generationally bad. I don't blame the players. And like, Volpe has kind of been like very quiet the first few years, and like he doesn't really argue much. But you see him like he's throwing his helmet and stuff like that. Like they're pissed. The umpires are pissing off usually quiet players. Remember last year when Judge got ejected, and you rarely ever see Judge show any sort of emotion on the field. And after that point, he was unstoppable. I don't know, man. These umpires are a joke, but I don't want to see players get ejected. I would think just if you say something and they're like they give you like, hey, enough. Listen to them.
And you listen.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you want to stay on the field.
Right. We don't have a backup shortstop. Our shortstop's not very good right now, so please don't get ejected.
Before we sign off, let's answer this question. Robin Donald from Tehran. Salute to you, Tehran. Thanks for watching. From Israel, which is awesome. What would you prefer, the current style of roster construction or having 1 to 2 mediocre seasons while going all in on prospects to build a core of youth and lower the payroll? And then the next comment is to open up money for top free agents. Rob, what are you thinking?
I don't trust this current Yankee regime to build a core. They tried it for 1 year. It worked for that 1 year. They didn't go all in the following season. And after 2017, they had an opportunity to still keep that core while also being the Yankees. So they go and trade for Giancarlo Stanton. Excellent move. You make that move 10 times out of 10. Then they said, no, we're not going to trade more prospects for Garrett Cole, when that move probably would have won you a World Series in 2018. And they decided to be like, we're also going to penny pinch when you're the New York Yankees. I don't trust this regime to be like, we're going to build a core to open up for free agents. Because if that core, whatever that young core may be, so if it's Lombard, Jones, Schlittler, and let's say Brock Selvage, just to name a few guys. If that's like your next core, and even Ben Rice, and they play really well, the Yankees are going to be like, well, we don't have to spend any more money. So now the next time like Paul Skeens hits the market, they're not going to pursue him because they're going to trust so much in their system because of 5 players. I don't trust them to build a system. I don't trust them to use the system they have to build the core and then play those guys. Look at what they're doing now. Right. To their number one prospect, they should play every day. They don't play him. So I don't trust it.
They make Dominguez like a 5th outfielder at this point.
Exactly. I don't trust it. That would be the way to do it, because the way you should be doing it is mixing the both. You have the system, you have the development, and you have the pockets. You can do all of them. And the Yankees don't do it. They choose one end and they tell you that they don't worry about the budget, while every reporter will tell you the Yankees don't want to add too much salary. Why are we hearing that from the New York Yankees? So I would agree with that, Doran, be like, okay, maybe they can just wait, but next year is a pretty good class of free agents as well, and guys they should be in on, like Kyle Tucker. They should absolutely be in on. It would have been Vlad, but he's not going to be a free agent. And I don't trust that they're going to be in on those guys when they should be.
Right, and I mean, the best example was Manny Machado.
Bryce Harper,
who was basically begging to be a Yankee. You could have had Bryce Harper play first base. We haven't had a first baseman. We haven't had a first baseman really consistently since Mark Teixeira that you can consistently trust over a period of time. There was Rizzo for 2 years, and then it kind of went haywire. And we've got Goldschmidt, who's good, but he's 38. So what do you expect? The best example is, why didn't they get Manny Machado? I mean, he was right there. Put him at third base, and then you've got third base solidified for the 10, 12 years. It's absurd. So just to piggyback on your point where you're 100% right, I've always said this, and you all know this, that I've watched this channel for a long time. I've always said, choose a direction. Choose a direction. So, for instance, the best example are the Yankees continue to dip their toes in both waters. So they're apparently going all in, but also not because they didn't get a third baseman, right? But they're also trying to promote their prospects, but they're also not because they don't play Dominguez. Dominguez is a 4-hit game as your number one prospect, and then he sits the next day, right? You see him twice in over a 5 6 day span. That's not doing either. And that's what's frustrating. The Yankees don't do either. Like, choose a direction. If you choose a direction, you have to follow that direction all the way. For instance, last season, they acquired Juan Soto, right? They staved off Garrett Cole's surgery in order to go all in, right? From what we understand, it was recommended for Garrett Cole to get TJ, but they managed to hold off on that in order to go all in, right? In order to have Garrett Cole top your rotation, in order to have Juan Soto and Aaron Judge in the lineup, right? But did they go all in after that? No, they didn't. They allowed the Dodgers to go and basically get all your targets at the trade deadline. And then they played Verdugo every single night. And Verdugo is now one of the worst hitters in all of baseball if you look at the statistics this season. And they were having him clean up. They were having him as a cleanup hitter last year. So the Yankees don't do either. They kind of develop their prospects, but they don't go all in on it. And they kind of go all in on spending, but they don't go all in on that either. So they kind of do a bit of both and do neither effectively. And that's why I'm frustrated. Like, honestly, choose a direction. If you want to go all in and win championships, somehow you're just going to have to sacrifice some more prospects that you're not willing to give up in order to get that big time player. But if you really want to develop your youth, you're going to have to play Dominguez every single day. You have to. You can't do just a bit of both because you do neither effectively. That's my big takeaway.
No, you're spot on, because I know this has been a big topic, especially with the way he's played this year in Anthony Volpe, but a couple of years ago, they could have easily signed a shortstop.
Yep.
The one that made the most sense was Seager, and they could have then used Volpe to trade for an outfielder because they didn't have one. So think about 2023 when they weren't playing well, and they had a chance to use the prospects that they don't want to trade, and they didn't do it because they held on to guys like, Josh Donaldson still got it, Aaron Hicks has still got it, when they could have been playing Wells a lot sooner. They could have been playing Dominguez sooner. They could have been playing Pereira and Florial. Peraza. Like, they could have been playing. They could have had a team of pretty much, because Judge was hurt, so they could have had an entire outfield of prospects, an infield pretty much of all prospects, and I think Rizzo was still playing in 23. He might have been hurt, but they could have had like a team of what could be a good core of the future. Mm-hmm. And they decided Billy McKinney, Jake Bowers, Keenan Middleton was their only acquisition. So it's like that was them telling me they don't trust the system as much as they say they do. Because they had every opportunity. What was a lost season. Judge was hurt. You had an excuse. You lost your best player. They had every excuse to be like, well, we lost Judge. Bader was on and off. Rizzo was dealing with some stuff because he got hit in the head with an ass, and that's what caused his head issues. They had every excuse in the book to play those kids and let them get early starts to their careers, and they didn't do it until like late July, August. And it's just,
and when they did
terrible.
Do that, they actually started to win some games, and they climbed above 500.
Yeah, they finished above 500.
Yeah, which it didn't look like it was going to be possible. But again, that's the story of the Yankees not really choosing a direction. 2023 was a lost season and never had to be a lost season. I know they didn't make the playoffs, but you could have learned something. If you played those kids every single day after Aaron Judge went down, you learned something. You learn which ones that you want to build with, and you learn which ones are expendable in order to get better talent in the building.
Yep.
There was no downside to playing your kids. None. You were losing anyway. You were going to lose with your Jake Bowers and all that stuff. So you might as well lose with people that have upside. Because with that upside brings trade possibilities that someone else around the league is going, I like this guy. This Pereira is crushing it right now. All right, I'll have to maybe make a trade there and maybe give up someone that I don't really want to give up. That helps the Yankees. There's no downside there. Jake Bowers has no trade value, so there was no point playing him, right? So there's no upside to what they did in 2023. And it was a wasted year because you could have been a year further in your development. You could have been a year further with a bunch of these kids. You could have been a year further with Peraza, and you could have figured out which ones you like, which ones you don't, which ones to prioritize developing, which ones do you want to trade in order to get better talent in the building. It's really very simple stuff, and they didn't do it.
And that's pretty much that's the answer to your question, Thorin.
Great question.
It really was.
Question.
Because it did bring up a lot of points about how this organization has acted. I mean, it's a team that has the pockets. We know it at a risk of repeating ourselves. They have the assets, and they just don't use them. They have the prospects, the development, they have the pockets, and they just don't use it correctly. Like you said, they try to dip their toes in both waters, and it doesn't work that way because they're not doing it right. You're supposed to build the core, sure. Use some of those kids as part of your development, as part of their future. But also, you're the New York Yankees. If you want to go get a Kyle Tucker next year, you shouldn't be like, well, we shouldn't get an already proven great major league player because Spencer Jones might be very good. I like Spencer Jones. I really, really do. Don't get me wrong on that. But I'm choosing Tucker every day of the week, because he's been there, done that. It's like when people were saying, oh, I wouldn't trade Spencer Jones because he's the backup plan to Soto. It's like, well, then you're already setting yourself up for failure because now you're putting expectations on Spencer Jones that should not be on there. A prospect is a prospect until they prove otherwise. Anthony Volpe, case in point, top 5 guy in the sport. And 3 years into his career, he has played nothing close to even a top 200 prospect. So they're a prospect for a reason. They're not guaranteed to work out. Some of them are. Like Paul Skeens, you knew he was going to be great. But sometimes players just don't live up to the hype. Sometimes they exceed the expectations. So that's why when they're hot and they're building their value, sometimes it does make sense to move those guys. I know we want to see. I love watching the minor league system, but if you're telling me I can go get a guy that's going to help me go win a championship this year, and I have to give up like Brock Selvage, who's one of my favorite players in the system, to do it, obviously I'm going to do it because you want to win. The Yankees' goal is to win every single year. It's not to worry about 2028, 2029, 2030.
That's right. Well, you also were very consistent that you would have traded Tucker for Elise Hill.
I did say that. I would have made that move. I know I would have hated seeing Heel pitch in another uniform.
Well, I would have. Luckily, that wouldn't have been the case because
he's hurt. But yeah, I would have definitely done that trade because Kyle Tucker would have helped you. He's better than Bellinger is this year. And Bellinger's been fine, but Kyle Tucker is the player that you want right now.
Better than Juan Soto. So, if you wanted a replacement for Soto, it would have been him.
It was him. He was the guy. It was him.
He and literally win a championship this year had they made that trade now, when you think about it in hindsight.
Yeah, and Jay Snow, you're right about the strikeout thing with Spencer Jones. Aside from that, he's been outstanding, though. He's very weird. His numbers are so good, but he's still striking out at a ridiculous clip. I think he's going to be like Kyle Schwarber, which is fine. That's because you'll take that. You're going to take the strikeouts if he's hitting like 30 bombs with plus defense. You're going to take it.
I wonder how they're going to work this Jones thing because
next year. I don't think it'll be this year unless like someone gets hurt or maybe someone tries to trade for Bellinger or something, which I don't see happening.
No, maybe Grisham. Maybe they trade Grisham.
And if they trade Grisham, you don't really want to call up Spencer Jones because then you're going to run into the same problem you had with Dominguez. You got to find a place to play him. I think it'll be next year that we see Spencer Jones.
But then what do you do about Kyle Tucker? Because you'll be a free agent. You need to sign Kyle Tucker. So.
That's another. Another conversation.
Another topic.
Yeah, no, that's another conversation for another day. We got a few.
Kami's doing because we need a first baseman as well.
Yeah. Well, Bellinger can play first. So maybe if they do keep Bellinger, they can put him there next year. There's a lot that can happen. Obviously, it's about to be July, but that is going to wrap it up for us here on this Monday. Thank you to everybody that was with us for this hour and a half show. We had a great conversation breaking down the Yankees, the series, the awards, breaking down the operating of the trades and the prospects and all that. It's been great fun. Hell of a show. We'll be back on Wednesday. Hopefully, Tats is with us. He's got some power back in his house. But the Yankees are getting ready to take on the Blue Jays, a very important series, these next couple of series coming up for our Yanks. So hopefully they wake up and get into a groove. That is going to do it for us once again. Thank you all so much for watching. Make sure you hit that like, hit that sub, share this out with your friends, your family, and that stranger on the corner. Still don't know who that is, but share it out with him anyway. This has been the Pinstripe Chronicles. I'm Rob with Donald and you, fine people. We'll see you all again on Wednesday. Wear those pinstripes of pride and play hard.